Welcome to the Nailsin Ratings. Say, remember that reboot movie a while back of Ghostbusters? Boy, there was a powerful lesson to be learned out of that. But did anyone learn it? Well, I'm thinking a lot of people who watched it did. But did Hollywood learn it? No, they didn't. So it was a colossal failure. You won't be seeing another one. And that's that. But Ghostbusters decided to go forward with a new Ghostbusters movie, but there's a catch. The cast would be replaced completely by women. And no, they're not going to be revealed to be the successors to the original, or they were, one of them was the daughters of the original, something like that. Or there was a baton handed off to the next generation or something. No, you don't need any of that because the future is female. And so that was the deal. The movie itself was awful. I couldn't finish it. It was just terrible. But you can't say that because the thinking here was that you could shield the movie against any criticism whatsoever. Like, say you didn't like the music, you're a misogynist. You didn't like the pacing, you're a misogynist. It didn't matter. So that was the idea, and it didn't work in the sense that you want this new franchise that's going to bring in the money, and people just want to, they're hungry for another one and all that. Oh, this is lovable, and the kids will buy the toys and stuff and all that. Man, the money will just come rolling in. That didn't happen because the movie was terrible. But in the idea that you could extort people, I don't want people to think I'm a misogynist. I gotta go see this movie, and I'd better cheer it on. So this is the formula, and so far, it just doesn't work. But did anyone learn this? No. Did they abandon it? No. So here we have some representatives of current popular franchises that are just being devastated by this philosophy. And of course, we'll begin with Star Wars. Yes, if you didn't like, primarily if you didn't like Star Wars The Last Jedi, you are a misogynist. Star Wars Last Jedi did have a lot of feminism in it, but you could take all that out and it would still be a giant steaming pile of crap. But nevertheless, it's the lead hero of this new sequel trilogy to the classic Star Wars series is female. Therefore, any and all criticism of the new Star Wars is misogyny. So it doesn't matter what the problem was. It doesn't matter that you're upset about how Luke Skywalker was treated and all this sort of thing. No. You are a misogynist. And all the stuff about Rey being a Mary Sue. Oh my God, heaven forbid. How could you possibly think that just because she suddenly came up with her powers with no training whatsoever and just magically saved the day without much of breaking a sweat? Yeah, that's not reason enough to think that. No, misogyny. The problem is that Star Wars The Force Awakens opened up to big success. And people knew that the lead hero of the new series was going to be a woman. And they showed up anyway. So that's interesting. It must have been something within the movie itself that brought on criticism, right? No. It's misogyny. Don't think about that. The power of the brand name brought them in, and Force Awakens, despite its problems, it was all right. And there's problems and some Mary Sue-isms there in that movie, but, whatever. Then Last Jedi came along and just pretty much crapped all over the whole Star Wars universe. And interestingly enough, you would think they would have some amount of respect for their female character to give her some development, give her some struggle, give her some goddamn story. Yet they didn't. So who's more detrimental to her character? The fans or the people who wrote her? Well, we'll see how Star Wars turns out in Chapter 9, huh? Oh, you're not going? Oh. Well, Whoops. Anyway, let's take a little trip across the pond, because the good old US of A isn't the only game in town when it comes to popular fantasy and sci-fi franchises. No, you got Doctor Who over there in Great Britain. It's been going, well, more or less strong since 1963. The series was canceled in '89, and then it got revived in 2005. And continues to this day, and we'll soon be getting a new series with its first female doctor. Yes, you see, the character had always been a man, and now the doctor has turned into a woman. Now, no. It's not reassignment surgery. No, you see, the character of the doctor, when they decided to change the actors, and originally because the original guy was getting old and ill to keep playing the role, so they came up with the idea that the doctor can regenerate his body, and in doing so, his body changes. Its appearance, size, all kinds of stuff. And that's how they were able to continue the show for so long. It's pretty clever. And it worked out pretty good for a while. And but each time the doctor changed, it was always a male actor. They did have some incidents in the show where other Time Lords, the doctor is a Time Lord, he comes from this planet, and that's the name of their people and all that. And they all have this ability to regenerate their bodies. And one of them actually regenerated from a white man into an Asian man. Well, I mean, both actors were white. Those were the times. But nevertheless, within the context of the story, the narrative, race swapping did happen in the classic version of the series. But gender swapping, no, that never did. Now, theoretically, you could argue that it would at some point. We all come from a mommy and daddy, so that DNA is floating around in there somewhere. So sooner or later, theoretically, you could work it out that, yes, the doctor could possibly turn into a woman. And so in the new version, they introduced this idea with other characters. There was a villain character called the Master through the series, and then, lo and behold, he regenerated into a woman and took on the name Missy, short for mistress. You get it? And so there you go. You knew it was coming. And then there was another Time Lord who did the same thing. And so now the doctor is a woman too. And so Doctor Who is the one franchise of these where you could make this work without destroying the nature of the franchise altogether. Except that's not what they're going to do. And the upcoming, now granted, none of the shows have been seen yet. So to be fair, do I know this for sure? No. Well, yeah, I do, because I've seen the previous episodes where misandry was the order of the day. And now they've decided to go full misandry by turning their hero into a woman. Oh, heroine. Oops. I'm sorry. No, you can't say that because, again, in third wave feminism, which is actually just misandry, but sprinkled with a little bit of misogyny, you don't use femininity. The feminine version of terms must be obliterated. Strange, I know. Don't try to figure it out. No one can. So anyway, the show is presenting itself as a feminist vehicle that shows the new doctor walking into this room and a glass ceiling shatters. Then there's It's About Time, which I guess all the previous doctors were misogynists too. They were insulting women by not being women. The female companions should be ashamed of themselves for being second-class citizens within the universe of the show, I guess. Whatever. So, yeah, if you don't like the new Doctor Who, you are a misogynist. If you don't watch the new Doctor Who, you are a misogynist. And you'd better go and tweet you like the new Doctor Who. In fact, you got to do more than that. You're going to have to say that this Jodie Whittaker version of the Doctor is the absolute best Doctor there has ever been. Because short of that is, of course, misogyny. But hey, maybe they'll just do fun, wacky adventure stories. Yeah, we'll see, won't we? Well, another thing we'll see about is the upcoming Captain Marvel. Yes, Captain Marvel, who was originally called Miss Marvel in the comic books, but they changed all that and gave her name to a younger girl who was going to spread the word about how wonderful and fantastic Islam is and stuff like that. And because, we didn't have any Muslim heroes, and actually they did, and were actually better and had more depth and development to them. But the current regime, most notably this woman who's running the show, didn't know anything about it. And so they gave her name to this girl, and now she took this man's name, Captain Marvel, who, hell, actually he took the name too from an entirely other character, who now has to go by his magic word of Shazam. It's a long story. We won't get into it here. Anyway, so she's going to be the Captain Marvel, and there she is, and she's the most powerful, greatest superhero who ever lived, because they said so, and you'd better accept it, or you are a misogynist. Now, the defense for the movie is almost immediate. In the promos on the Entertainment Weekly magazine, the future is female. You can see the word hero, and the zero fades away. Did you notice the word her is in hero? So there, oh boy, there you go, huh? And well, just like Doctor Who, it's time. It's time. Yeah, we've never had female superheroes in movies before. Wonder Woman, Black Widow, Supergirl. Anyway, so here's Captain Marvel. Well, some people began to criticize the trailer, not because Brie Larson looked pretty stone-faced and showed no emotion, and some guy did some photoshops of her smiling. Well, apparently that's akin to almost sexual assault at this point, and people were very upset. And you can't ask a woman to smile because, well, I mean, you're a misogynist. So, of course, Brie responded by putting smiles on the male superheroes of the Marvel movies, and all that. And tee-hee, wasn't that hilarious? Well, the problem is that it doesn't address the deal with her being unable to show any emotion in any of the scenes we've seen so far of her portrayal of Captain Marvel. Whereas the men in the original version of those posters, yeah, they're not smiling, but boy, you can see they're showing off the emotion for the scene, where it was this devastation and stuff like that. Whereas her face is just sort of like, okay, whatever. I mean, when they released the trailer on YouTube, they had the thumbnail in it, and it was probably the worst of the pictures, where she's in her pilot helmet and everything, and she just looks bored to death, you know. And maybe she just is, because do you really think Brie Larson gives a crap about superheroes and stuff? I doubt it. But, you know, I can't blame her for taking the paycheck, you know. I'd do it too. So I saw her performance in the Kong movie, and she stunk. I mean, it just wasn't any good. But then again, I don't know that anyone could have played it any well, because that character was just there, you know, and she didn't matter. So this will surely be a little different, because she's the central character to the story. But again, yeah, no emotion whatsoever. However, it is possible, just possible, that within the plot of the movie, it appears that at some point she got abducted by the Kree aliens, and they erased her memory of being a human on Earth. And in doing so, she lost her emotions. She lost her humanity. And then when she crash lands on Earth and lands in the blockbuster and everything, and she looks around and, holy crap, there's something familiar about this place. And thus her journey begins. So maybe by the end she'll actually have emotions, and she will have her humanity returned to her. Well, we'll see. But since the response was, you're all a bunch of misogynists, so if you don't like Captain Marvel, again, you are a misogynist. If you don't go see Captain Marvel, you are a misogynist. And if you don't get on Twitter and say that she is the best damn superhero ever, not superheroine, best damn superhero ever, then you are a misogynist. Now, unlike the other franchises I've discussed here, Marvel is still pretty much riding high, so they're not quite in trouble yet. That remains to be seen. Yes. But another science fiction franchise that is just deep underwater and drowning It is, of course, Star Trek. Star Trek had the movies that J.J. Abrams did, but they went off into a different timeline to explain the differences and whatnot. Turns out there was legal concerns as to why they had to do that. Kind of takes the fun out of it. But they started off pretty good, but then the movies just turned to crap. And then meanwhile, a new TV series was announced, which is where Star Trek really belongs, is on television. And this was supposed to be the flagship for the new CBS All Access streaming service. And boy, you wanted to get your subscription in so you could see the brand new Star Trek. And the special effects looked really good. It was the best you'd ever seen. It was really spectacular. Interestingly enough, it kind of reminds me of what the new Doctor Who promos look like. It all looks really, really gorgeous. And but in the case of Star Trek, you can thank Netflix because they paid for all that so they could have the international rights to the show. Unfortunately, they didn't know they were getting a steaming pile of crap. First of all, it completely crapped on Star Trek continuity. It said that it takes place 10 years before the original series. It's just no way that that's possible. It changed everything with no explanation whatsoever. Just all kinds of crap. And it based around a central character, whereas most of the Star Trek was largely ensemble casts and stories and whatnot, whereas this one, no, it's going to be about the star character, Michael Burnham, and of course another Mary Sue. She's wonderful, she's amazing, she was adopted by Vulcans, yet she was smarter than any Vulcan ever, and she could outdo all their little techniques and everything. And no explanation as to how or why. She's just amazing. And of course, everyone loves her, and she's just wonderful, and all that sort of crap. And of course, if you don't appreciate and respect Michael Burnham, then you are a misogynist. And possibly a racist too, since she is black. So you can throw that in there. Although I think most people stick with the misogyny element. The stories were pretty bad. There was only one episode that was somewhat reminiscent of Star Trek. And then there was one other episode that didn't involve her character at all, and it was pretty good. The rest of it, it just pooped the bed. It was pretty awful. And their main plot, turns out, was stolen from some guy developing a video game. And now, how about that? You know, he's currently suing them over and they did. I've seen it. They completely stole, even the cast of their show is ripped off from his video game. It's an astounding thing to see. Interestingly enough, a similar thing happened with Last Jedi. Yeah. Anyway, so there you have it. But if you don't like Star Trek Discovery, then yes, you are a misogynist. And it's necessary to use this shield because the show is just awful. It's terrible. And if you really did have respect for wanting to promote a female hero, you'd think you would do a better job than that. What's the future for Star Trek Discovery? Well, they're going to bring in more classic reference characters. They want to have Captain Pike in there. Still doesn't really look like the original story, so it's not really going to fit in like they say it does. I don't think Netflix is on board for this next season. And their main champion was Big Man Les Moonves. Uh-oh. Where's he now? So this might be the last season for Star Trek Discovery. But they rehired Patrick Stewart to do something. Well, maybe they'll figure that out. But wait a minute. He's a man. Uh-oh. But there you go. Has the idea of you're a misogynist saved any of these franchises and made them invulnerable to criticism of whether or not their actual product and stories and plots were any good? No, it hasn't. In fact, it pisses people off even more. And it makes it worse, like especially with Doctor Who and Captain Marvel. Now, you know what's going to happen? People are going to sit there and watch for every little misandrous line, every little feminist scene, stuff like that. They're waiting for it, to where some of it might not be that big of a deal, but now it's going to be to the power of 10. When it comes to a plot and narrative of a movie or a show, an episode, the last thing you want to do is take your audience out of the story. Political preaching will do just that. So, in conclusion, finally, sorry, no, Hollywood and what have you, entertainment media, have not learned that lesson. They continue to use it as if it somehow shields them and can somehow extort the audience to get in the seats and watch their show and pay for it, lest they suffer the scarlet letter of misogyny. Yeah. Hadn't worked yet, but hey, you know, when you keep failing and you redouble your efforts, what's that called? Oh, yeah. Thank you for watching and listening. Hey, why not like and subscribe, unless you're really pissed off at me, and you won't. And you also check out the link description below, where you can check out my mini stores that have plenty of goodies just for you. Bye-bye.